I want to know about that. Like, what was it about you? Like, what made you want to like pivot and do something different?
This probably won't sound exciting to people, but it was really more fear-based rather than joy-based.
Okay.
It was really more, you can either be pulled by desire or pushed by fear. There's some kind of saying like that.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine that's also a consultant here locally mentioned this to me the other day, and I used to would have been offended about it, but he said, you were really more driven by fear in the beginning. And I thought, yeah, really, for maybe 15 years I was driven by fear. So that, and it's got a good side to it because it got me there, right? So it's not like it's a bad thing and I was just happy and saw my vision. It was never like that. It was a lot of lack of clarity. It was a lot of, I call it the 3 life tragedies. You want something more, but you don't know what it is. You know what it is, but you don't. You don't believe it's possible. Then finally, you believe it's possible, but you have to be willing to jump. So there's a lot of fear in that with the unknown. I had no
Yeah.
blueprint at all, and so it was fear of. Actually, it was the fear of seeing myself with a retirement cake at 65 years old and going, "Oh my God,
Wow.
this is it. This is it." And sounds really dramatic, but it is really how I felt. I remember saying to a friend of mine, I would rather die in a car wreck at 35 if I thought this was going to be the rest of my life. If I
Wow.
thought I had no other choice and I didn't find my own agency, I would rather just be killed and just say it's over. And I didn't have to see that end reality of I'm here. And the best part of your day is that you get 15 more minutes for a lunch break and cashew chicken ordered in. Like, if that's my life, that's not enough.
Oh, wow. So you had this like deep, I mean, that's powerful to have that kind of conviction. Like you knew like this is just not, if
I
this is what
can't
my
do
life
it.
is going to be like, then let's move on to the next one.
I can't live it out. I can't live that out. I couldn't even be grateful about that opportunity, which in a way, I changed my mind later on when I saw a lot of people that had retired,
Right.
and they were happy. They were traveling. They had a great 401k. So
Right.
I changed my mind about what success is because it's unique to every person. And so that was a level of success, the security, the decision to support the family, to put your focus in other places. It just wasn't the right success for me. And I just felt a panic about if that's what it is, I just can't live with myself because if you have so much more to give, to not try to develop that, it feels terrible.
Yeah, and I understand what you mean. I remember when I was trying to decide whether or not, like after I got basically kicked out of corporate, and had to decide whether or not I was going to like throw myself back in, or if I was going to, take a chance on myself. I really didn't at the time, at least, I didn't think I had an entrepreneurial mindset, Marlene. But the thought of not betting on myself, the thought of not like taking a chance on seeing what I can really do, that just like turned my stomach. Like that feeling of regret and being out of time.
That's how I felt too. And this was the thing that got me to jump. And I know a lot about clarity versus certainty, and because I've lived it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying to myself when I said, "Oh, I want to quit and I want to start maybe being a professional speaker," I said, "I don't really know if I can do that." And I'm not really even real sure what I want, but here's what I do know. And I hung on to this. What I know is this is not it. So if this isn't it, there's no reason not to jump. There's no reason. If I already know this isn't it, why am I waiting? There's not going to be a good fairy, a magic pumpkin. There's nothing going to happen. I have to decide this isn't it. And that was only the amount of clarity I had. And what I tell people now when they're struggling with clarity is often they mean they want certainty. Certainty is a feeling. And clarity is different. Clarity is a light, a lit candle, a flashlight that says this isn't it. That's enough clarity to take the next step. So clarity is not certainty.
But how do you recognize it? And it's funny because I feel like I don't know what it is, but clarity as a word, I'm seeing it everywhere these days. And I mean, it's like a buzzword now, but you've been doing this work, clarity work for a long time. So, but for those of us who are like, that need a real definition of clarity, what it like, that we could recognize it like, oh, this is me being super, I've got clarity.
If I had one definition, I'd probably also be on Oprah. You know what I mean? And I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But I think we have to define and understand clarity differently. There's different levels and types of clarity. So there's the clarity of what do I want? What I have found, let's take this into the workplace, because I do a lot of corporate work. So
Yeah.
let's say, and you were an executive, so you'll relate to this. So an employee is complaining about something. They're just complaining. And either you're going to try to solve it, or you're going to try to tell them to stop complaining. They can find another job. Or you can say, I hear you. That sounds difficult. What is it that you want? That one question, most people will say this, well, I don't think it's fair that, and they'll go off on their story. You say, I understand, but what is it that you want? Well, what happened last year was, I understand, but what is it that you want? Well, I want Sally to be fired. Okay, well, if Sally was fired, what would that give you that you don't have? Because see, Sally getting fired is not what you want. You think that will solve a problem for you. Well, I'll be able to leave work at 5 o'clock and get home and cook dinner for my family. So what you really want then is to leave at 5 o'clock and cook dinner for your family. But in your mind, it's Sally that's keeping you from that. So most of us do not know what we want. And I love that you are saying, I want something big, and I feel like I can create that, because that creates the momentum, that belief and that desire and the courage to say it out loud, which I've struggled with, I'll be honest, to say out loud that I want something bigger and something more. That we were taught that we're not supposed to want that. Be grateful
Right.
for what you are. This is your place. You were born into this kind of family. You don't get that.
Right. Yep.
And so I think that until we can say what we want, like, for example, if we have a disease, or we've got cancer, we've got something that we don't want in our lives, it would be wrong not to own the fact that you want perfect health, because to not own it means you're creating more of the disease than to say, I am owning that I want perfect health and I'm willing to do whatever is required. So the wanting is one part of it, but the willingness is the other. And I call willingness the fulcrum point of change.
Oh, wow. That is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That is powerful.